Hi, I'm Seamless, and today I want to talk to you about self-promotion and sort of how it's viewed by others and why people seem to hate it so much. Um, if you're an artist at all, you're gonna at some point have to do some amount of self-promotion. The idea where you're gonna want to post your stuff somewhere, like some forums or Reddit or Facebook, SoundCloud stuff, comments, whatever you can think to do, you're gonna want to push your songs and get it out there, get people to see, and get exposure, the almighty exposure, and that kind of thing. Like, that's kind of what you want to be doing and what you want to go after. And there's a number of ways you can go about it, but it all sort of depends on your goal. If your goal is to just like increase your sort of your social media numbers, like your SoundCloud follows, your Twitter followers, Facebook likes, that kind of thing, then there are a lot of games you can play to kind of make those numbers work for you. Things like to download or use Tone Den, where like if someone wants to listen to your song at all, they need to follow you on SoundCloud, that kind of thing. Follow for follow, and all that kind of stuff. That's just sort of those are like sort of crutches with which people can use to get people to entice them to like your page or be involved with your stuff without really having to care about your actual stuff. And of course, in the midst of all this, you have your stuff, and that's one thing. What's going on there? There's also sort of the collaborative approach where you team up with another artist and do collabs or do remixes or get on to someone's like remix EP or and collab EP or like when Monster Cat did the EDM district thing and there was a compilation, get on those kinds of things. Like there's lots of ways to sort of like promote yourself to sort of just expand your following and whatever. Um, so if your goal is to do that, then like the pathing for that in the landscape is pretty clear and pretty well set. However, I'm not totally sure that's the best thing to be doing. Like, there's sort of good short-term gains for that because a lot of people like booking agents for shows and gigs pretty much just care about the social media numbers, and that's a big indicator for some people. And like they'll take it more seriously, that kind of thing. But it's really easy to sort of seem gamey with your numbers. Like if you have like 20,000 Facebook likes, but only like one or two comments on a thing and like one like on posts you make, and that kind of stuff, that's where it gets to be a bit suspicious. But so I get the value, that having a numbers does, depending on like how kind of what kind of career you want to be having. But the problem with that is that you get people who are following you who are not necessarily fans of you. They're there to have done some promotion or whatever to like your page to get something that they actually wanted. They're there because someone else referred them to you, that kind of thing. But they're not actually really there for you yet or at all. And where this becomes a problem is like what I just described, where you get a whole bunch of followers, but then you have like no engagement at all. And then that comes back to bite you when you have something actually important, like when you release something or when you have a new anything at all, and you're like, okay, cool. If you're into me, come do this thing and whatever. And then you suddenly wonder why there's no movement on that whatsoever. And it's because the majority of your of your engagement is a problem, and that's kind of a bad deal. Now, I mentioned this because some of the more annoying and persistently annoying methods of self-promotion where, like, you go to wherever you can and be like, hey, can you, like, listen to my track? Like, go to someone's YouTube comments and do that. That was how I knew I really started to become something, when people started trying to promote their stuff on my YouTube channel's comment page. But, that and people trying to say first. But, that particularly annoying brand of trying to, like, push people out, like, into your stuff creates those kinds of followers, if they even look at your stuff at all, because honestly it's viewed as a very annoying thing. We'll talk about the annoying thing in a second, because it's a weird little idea. But then there's the other goal. So the other goal, there's more goals, but the goal that I like better, which is the sort of the slow and steady way, where you're winning over like actual fans one at a time or two at a time or whatever, posting somewhere you're supposed to, like people who are actually actively looking for things, like in forums that are designed for, in places that are specifically in Reddit threads that are like, post your tracks here, when people ask for it, when people are actually like trying to find something, because then if they like it and they find it and they like you and they like your stuff and then they follow you and whatever, that one guy is worth way more than 1,000 fake likes, because later when you go to try and like push something or something new, that guy's actually interested in what you're doing and what you've got. And that I feel is a much more valuable proposition and thing to be kind of shooting for. It's a lot slower going, you know. It works in any kind of like artistic promotion medium, like, you know, for what I do, not necessarily with my music, but with my videos and whatever. I used to do similar things. I would go to forums and post like in threads that were related to what the content that I was talking about. I would post on Reddit and that kind of thing. And this, like, it took me like almost 4 years, coming up on 4, almost, it's 3.5 now, but like it's coming up on a while that it took me to get what I have now. And what I noticed over time, though, is that even in the beginning, when I had like a third of the various engagement numbers that I have now, I had maybe a tenth of the likes of people who had similar engagement than I did, because people who were following me were people who were legitimately interested in my stuff. Because one thing, like, I'm really bad at sales. I'm a bad salesman, and that's because I typically let the product speak for itself, which means that if the product's shitty, people are going to think it's shitty, and I'm not going to defend it. I'm not going to try and swindle them into thinking something it's not. And if they like it, it's because they found it spoke to them, and then they made the case for it themselves, and they like it. And I can't compete with that, and I don't try to. And it's not as effective. I could, you know, entice more people and do all these things to try and, like, you know, cajole people into being on board with my stuff and that kind of thing. But like, I just don't wanna. I'm not saying it's bad if you do, but I'm saying I don't wanna. And I know that that's like, I probably could have gotten larger faster if I played the game, but like that whole thing, like whenever you hear me talking about how I didn't want to play the game and be a real musician and do the labels and do all that kind of shit, that's the stuff I'm talking about. I really didn't want to do that for my music. So, that's hence the slow glowing that happened. But like, as a result, I similarly now, in comparison to other YouTube channels that have similar sizes than me, I actually outperformed them a lot, because I honestly believe that like the quality of the people who follow me is of a much higher degree in terms of like people who are actually interested in what I want. Because I remember I did contemplate once upon a time to do a like to download for like an FLP or something, and I thought, wow, man, my Facebook usage is gonna grow, they're gonna explode. But then like I realized that there'd be empty likes. There'd be people that like, it wouldn't be the true representation of people who are actually into me. And as well, because I'm independent. I mean, I'm signed now, but for the most part, I'm independent for my like YouTube channel or whatever. I never really needed to care about my engagement numbers. They existed mostly just as a measurement of engagement. I didn't really use them as ways to show off to like a label or a promoter or whatever. It's just a measurement. It's not, so like, it's in my best interest for it to be as like legit as possible. And so for the most part, I keep to that. So on all of this, there's this kind of underlying discussion about how, for the most part, when you try to self-promote in places that might be a little bit inappropriate for it, people get really mad. And they're like hardcore don't want you to do that. And I noticed this, I mean, Reddit's one of the big places I like being around, but I noticed that a lot of places where there's Reddits, where like subreddits where it'd be relevant for like the kind of stuff that I do, I can't post because it's my stuff. And it's self-promotion if I do that. And so it is usually rules against that in various subreddits. And there's like, you know, the feedback and promotion threads and specific forums and that kind of thing. And that's fine, but I'm also not making tracks most of the time. I'm making tutorials, and it's a bit of a different content, but you still experience this as someone who has tracks. Like the biggest, you know, music-related subreddit, our music, doesn't let you post your own music. And even ones that are about producing music don't let you post your own music. And you have to wonder why. And it's because, I already know why, it's because they're trying to counteract the bullshit. They're trying to counteract when people are just spamming and are just trying to game up their numbers and not really interested in like actually talking about their stuff in reference to their stuff. So they're trying to avoid that. And so they have to make blanket rules, and they can't really, you know, nitpick that kind of stuff. And it puts me in a particular situation when I post my stuff, because if I post a tutorial, like, unless the tutorial is like 100% genuine in its content, where like it's all about me giving away something, and like in no way am I like trying to like self-promote myself or sell something or try and engage anybody beyond that, then they remove it because it's self-promotion. And the sort of the hypocrisy about this is that if someone else posts it, it's not self-promotion, even if it's someone else that I put up to posting it, which is something I have yet to do, but I've considered it often. And I'm I'm very lucky to have gotten to the point where I myself don't usually go into like relevant forums and posting things anymore to like maximize my viewership numbers, because people do that for me, and that's really cool. And that's kind of the end game that people want, like the subreddit moderators or whatever. That's what they want. They want other people to find things that are cool because they find a value in it, and then post about it because other people might as well. Even though I really feel like people would find value in the things that I do, but I have to be careful about which kind of ones that I do and post anywhere, because it's considered self-promotion. And I definitely have also received special treatment in this regard. People have recognized that, yeah, this is self-promotion, but yeah, this is also like very valuable stuff. And like, because I mean, that's also kind of like a promotion tactic where like you bundle information about things that I'm selling. Like if I mentioned the fact that I do lessons, or I talk about anything to do with any kind of pricing, or where my music is, or websites, or whatever, or anything like that at all, that's be it self-promotion. And like pretty soon I'm going to do the 75K tutorial thread on Reddit. And like it's almost a toss-up whether or not that'll stand. Because if I'm just like, woo, I have subscribers, here's my YouTube channel, here's the previous, for the 20K, 30K, 40K videos, ask for 75 sound design tutorials. Like, I honestly don't know who's going to interpret that as being too self-promoting. And I even tried to curb this once upon a time. Because I used to just post every video I made, and that was honestly pretty spammy, like, because it'd be a lot. Like there'd be 3 or 4 videos on the front page that are mine alone on the EDM production subreddit. But so I thought that was too much. So what I decided to do, that I was gonna do a weekly like anthology where I just post every video I did during the week, explain what they are, and just do that once a week, so that like I didn't like just awash people in my stuff all the time, because I do a lot of videos. I understand that can be a bit hard to keep up with, and also I don't want to flood people's pages. But I totally will when I do the 75K tutorials. But the very first one I did got pulled down because it seems too self-promoting to post so many videos. I was like, that is just the weirdest policy. That is super duper weird. And the self-promoting thing is not is an issue. Is not unique to music producers. There are plenty of there was actually a whole thing on Reddit about a guy who was talking about self-promotion, because like he'd made a website and he wanted to promote it, people didn't like it, but then like when somebody larger and established came in to do it, they allowed it. And I did give one reason why people don't like self-promotion, because they're trying to avoid spam and that kind of thing. But another reason why is because for the most part they want to avoid crappiness. They want to avoid what usually would probably be the case, which is the people who really are like desperate for promotion and desperate for exposure, who are probably newer producers who probably make things that they aren't going to think sounds good. It may or may not be the truth, but that's what they assume is the case. And for every 100 people that post something, one of them might be good, and that's not worth not having our front page anymore, because every post is self-promotion, which is exactly how that would go down. I mean, you know that. You've been to forums, you've seen what happens when they don't have a self-promotion page and they don't have self-promotion rules. Everyone, everything, everywhere is just a post about, them and their stuff. And discussion is difficult to foster in such an environment. But the guy who was talking about self-promotion made a statement that, like, when an established act or larger entity came in, they usually got a pass on that kind of promotion. And I absolutely believe that to be the case in the EDM subreddit as well. Like if deadmau5 came in, it was like, hey, here's my new track. They're not going to be like, sorry, it's self-promotion. They're gonna bend the rules for that, because they don't. That risk of sort of unknownness and shittiness and spamminess is obviously reduced when there's an established act. Even though that is like straight up full on hypocrisy, there's reasons for it, and it's there. I don't think that I'm at the stage where I can command that kind of hypocrisy, but one day that might be the case. That'd be cool. Pretty sweet. Not have to worry about this anymore. But it's kind of a deal. As far as recommendations for like how I would suggest that you do self-promotion if you want to like be promoted more, it's like you gotta find places that are sympathetic to whatever it is that you're doing. Find forums that are about the right genres. Find someone that's about the right way of doing things. Like maybe I honestly, like, my earlier days of promoting things that I did before I even did videos like this were just being on the FL forums, because it was relevant to their interests, the idea that I was doing FL stuff. So that's That's how that worked. I had any attention at all because I was active on those forums that were there because of the stuff that they want to know about that kind of thing. One guy, what's going on? But so like don't go to like, 7string, guitars.org, 7string.org. I forget what that website's called. It's a metal website and it's mostly about like guitar tech and that kind of thing. And I'm not gonna go there and post about my dubstep songs. That would be dumb. And like there might be some people that like it, but the chances are quite limited, and it's really not a valuable expenditure of your effort. When I did the earlier like the 20Ks and 30Ks and that kind of thing, I had the thread on Reddit, and then I also had a thread on a whole bunch of other places. I had one on like EDM District, I had one on the Image Line forums, I had one on a couple like in what became of Dogs on Acid. Like I put one in there, and I just have tabs open whenever I do one, and I post it like 4 or 5 times, that kind of thing. And like now I don't do that because I've reached critical mass in that regard that I'm not totally worried about it. And people who like it or want to show it off will do that themselves, and that's a kind of a neat place to get into. And it's difficult to kind of manufacture that. And of course, there's always the old adage that like if the music's good, then you'll get followers and that kind of thing, which helps. And it's certainly easier if people like what you're doing, but obviously, there's more to it than that. There's a lot more people who can do this stuff to a proficient degree without a huge amount of effort as compared to previous eras. So, the competition is like ridiculous. And the cut through the noise, you probably gotta try to like, deal with some shit. But for the most part, you want to try to find people who want to find your stuff. Go to places that are most likely to be, and that's going to be different for everyone and for whatever stuff that they're doing, and that is kind of a thing. And of course, now there's also the promo channel phenomenon on YouTube, which really took off a while ago, and that's like a nice outlet for promotion if they like your stuff, So if you have music that they like, that's obviously a relevant thing, and that's just sort of the same deal. Find one that represents your tastes in your genre and post it there. That's sort of how that works. But like, don't go too overboard. And also, like the wasted effort part about like posting places that are not like actively looking for your stuff. One of those places, like I mentioned in one of my videos about this specifically, is other artists. Other artists at your level might care because they'll see you as potentially like a collaborative partner that you can share, the followers that you have, and you can grow your user base. And that's honestly pretty good. That's a reasonable thing to be doing. But like, I'm friends with a number of artists on Facebook, and it's kind of funny how many of them over the years have at some point made a post on Facebook that just tells people to stop sending them demos and that they do not care. And why would you think they did? Honestly, I can understand why people think I care because I'm about teaching people how to do stuff and like listening. They have that angle to come into being like, oh, can you like talk about my track? Like, look at this like, kind of thing. Like, it's a bit of a unique position to be in, and I understand that I made that bet. But like AU5, Savant, like they are not in a position to care about your demo, and I know that it's a bit of a catch-22 because there's also the chance that they might totally dig your stuff, and like they might even like it a lot, and that even though they may not like the behavior, that's the only way they probably would ever heard of you or your stuff. Because like producers are some of the most like musically ignorant people because they spend most of their time doing their thing and their stuff with their artists that they like, versus music listeners who are people who don't produce music, who mostly spend a lot of time trying to find as much new stuff as possible in comparison. So that's kind of why that's a bit of a difference there. But like, I mean, I'm not going to rehash what I said in that other video. You can go find it if you want. But it's mostly a bad idea to be doing that. And I know that this is really just very difficult, but I'm mostly a proponent of promoting slowly in the beginning, gaining new people, new fans, like one fan at a time. Because if you like my vocalist on our metal band, like we're talking about doing out shows and out of state and that kind of thing. And he says like, if we go play a show and one guy is there, we're going to play the fuck out for that one guy. Because if we make one new fan out of this entire like trip out to wherever the hell this place is, then that was worth it. And he's right. And it's the same thing for, what you're doing. Like if you've got, you make, have everything good to go, have all your stuff easy to find. I mean, promotion also helps when you have all of your social media ducks in a row and that your website's easy to find and your names are on your songs and that kind of stuff. And like, it's you get that shit going, get your game on that. But it's not like you want to have that kind of thing, because over, like, it might take a long time. You might not be thinking about, like, the year or two later, because you might be like, I want to be famous now, and that kind of thing. And I understand that, but you'll be in a position to command movement on your stuff, which anyone who wants any kind of career, that's the thing you should think is the most important. And you should really stop assuming that labels can do any better, because they just got to do it yourself. They just got to do what you were doing just then. And that's a whole other discussion as well. I think I did also. Anyway, I hope that hell made sense at all. But if you have any questions about that, please let me know. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, and all that good stuff. And as usual, have a nice day.